What's going on, guys? It's Groove back again with another one from Mastery, and in this video we're going to be going over section 2 on how to be the ideal apprentice. So after we come out of our formal education in life, the next step or the next phase in our life is the most critical, and this is the practical education, and this is what apprenticeship is. It's how to master being a student at whatever craft you're in, and this stage is often overlooked. You know, everybody, as soon as they get their education, they feel like, oh, I'm good to go now. Like, just throw me in there. But this practical knowledge, actually putting your hands on the task and learning the task, becoming a master student at your craft is super important on advancing in life. Most people don't take this phase in life serious. And, you know, most of us end up getting through life at the end, but we've accumulated so many mistakes along the way, and these can cause serious problems. But if you just take the time to become a master student, you can avoid all of these mistakes. So there's 3 key steps that we need to take in order to become a master student. So the first one is deep observation. The second one is skill acquisition, and the third one is experimentation. And you can use these steps in all different fields of, you know, whatever your life task is. So before we jump into these steps, people need to realize that apprenticeship is not about money or position or status. It's about transforming your mind and your character. And I've read a few stories about like big entrepreneurs and big CEOs of companies or people who have started their own business. They will have their kids work at every lower tier section of the business. Like, the kids know their parents are going to hand over this business to the kids. But instead of them just starting at the top, the smart parents will have the kids work at every different section. Like, they'll work at the mail room, then they'll work at the front office, and they'll get a whole understanding of the entire business. And so they know how to run it better when they're given the keys to that business, so to speak. So whenever you get into your apprenticeship, make sure you're choosing the right position for you, the one that allows you to learn the most. Again, and not have to worry too much about the money or the position. Where can you learn the most? So step 1 when it comes to mastering apprenticeship is deep observation. So this is whenever you get into a new work environment, your main goal is just to observe, just to understand the place you're at, understand the behavior, understand the rules and the structure. Just take a step back. You're not there to try to get ahead or to compete and be better with it than anybody. You're just there to learn and observe. See what, again, the work rules are like. Who's in charge? You may have a boss, but then actually somebody else is really in charge and calling all the shots. Who does all the information run through? Like, again, you're just there to observe. Your whole job is to observe the culture. You are not here to change your work environment. There are several reasons why you must observe first. This is the first thing you have to do. And the first reason is knowing your environment. It will allow you to avoid mistakes. And secondly, just being able to observe an environment, this is a lifelong skill that you can take with you wherever. You will cultivate a keen eye for human psychology and strengthen your ability to focus. Finally, you will be accustomed to observing, taking in details with your eyes, and then analyzing them on the back end. Instead of just thinking that they're one way, you can actually, again, take in that information and process it and be like, okay, now I know how things really work. So step 2 is skill acquisition. This one is pretty simple, but it's hard for a lot of people to do. So apprenticeship, he talks about how it is Latin for to grasp with hand. And so with this skill acquisition portion, it is just to acquire the skills and just repeat them, just repetition. This is how you get good at something, is just doing a task over and over again. And a lot of people today try to avoid this. I know with older jobs that I've had, you know, we may have had a hard task to do, and a lot of people would try to avoid that task. And the only way you're going to get good at something is if you just do it over and over and over again, and then it just becomes second nature to you. He talks about how this can be seen with great Gothic cathedrals in Europe, and how these things are beautifully crafted, and they were done, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago without books or blueprints. People just over time, they just put in the hours, they put in the work to just perfect their craft. And so it was just easy for them. Well, it wasn't really easy, but it was simple because they've done it so many times. And he mentions how this is actually it is the way we learn as humans. Like, a lot of people try to throw out biology, but he says this is actually the way we learn as humans, is by putting our hands on the task, is by watching and imitating. This is natural for us. So he mentions how if you watch somebody ride a bike and then you get on the bike and try it yourself, this is how you learn, rather than reading how to ride a bike in a book and then trying to ride a bike. Eventually, because you've put so much reps in, your practice becomes easier, leading you to do the task for a longer set of hours, leading to you advancing in your skill level. So it's just you've put in so many reps that the practice gets easier, you get to do it for longer hours, which just increases your skill level. And so in order to get great at something, you just have to put the reps in. He also mentions that it's critical to just master one skill at a time. We as humans are not meant to multitask, which is getting harder and harder today, because a lot of jobs are like, hey, I need you to send out this email, and then I need you to do this, and I need you to start this project, and can you have this to me by 5 p.m.? And it's a lot of multitasking in the world today. But he says that we learn better if we just focus on one thing at a time. And then he ends off by saying that, it's really important to lean into the pain and boredom, because as you're putting these reps in, as you're practicing whatever skill you're trying to accomplish, it's going to be painful. It's going to be boring. You're going to be like, I want to stop. Like, I'm done with this. It's so boring. But he says this toughens the mind. This makes us better at the skill. A little fun fact he does mention as well is he says whenever we start to learn a new skill, our frontal cortex actually expands to allow us to focus on this new skill. But then over time, it shrinks back down as this new skill gets put on autopilot, and it just becomes easier for us. With deep practice, it will reveal new capabilities that you didn't think you had before. You will develop emotionally deeper. Your pleasures will be refined in life. When I read that, he talked about, again, your pleasures being defined or refined in life. It made me think of this one podcaster. Well, he's not really a podcaster. He's a business guy, entrepreneur. His name is Brandon Carter. And he always talks about how he finds pleasure in pushing himself, and pleasure in figuring out how to start new businesses, how to push his body in the gym, how to make more money. He says he gets pleasure in that. He says too many people today are doing a job that they hate, and so they find pleasure in drugs, in alcohol, in partying. And he's like, I don't really like those things. He was like, he gets his pleasure from seeing how much he can push himself in life. And so it was funny when I read that about mastery and how it will redefine your pleasures in life, and how people in the real world have actually experienced that. So step 3 now is experimentation. So we've observed our environment. We know how to play inside the environment that we're working in. We've acquired our skills, and now it's the experimentation portion. So this is when, you've been practicing and now your skills are on autopilot. And so now you're like ice skating through this thing. You know what you're doing. And so now you can play more. Now you become more active. Now you can experiment with these skills. And this can be shown with you, taking on more responsibilities, initiating projects, taking on work that exposes you to criticism. So now you can get feedback on how you can improve. And this also can tell you a lot about yourself as well. As you're looking for this criticism, because a lot of people hate criticism. Don't tell me that I'm doing a bad job or where I can improve. I know what I'm doing. But he says this is key. Like, this helps you as a person if you can take criticism, if you can take healthy feedback. Most people end up taking too long in this step because they fear the criticism. They don't want to be told what they need to improve in, which then kind of stunts their mastery of the skill. So always have an open mind. Never be closed off to criticism, because that's how you get to that next level. Always find out what you can improve on. So once you've mastered these 3 skills, learning how to observe, to acquire skills, and then to experiment, he talks about how if you ever do need to change careers later in life, because you've mastered these 3 things, it becomes second nature, and you're able to learn a lot quicker. You're able to adapt to this new career that you're currently in. So now that we've gone over the 3 steps that you need to master in order to become that ideal apprentice, he goes over some different strategies that we can all use to complete this ideal apprenticeship. And so the first one is choosing a place that allows you to learn and flourish over the money. He said if we choose the paycheck over learning, then we will constantly be in a state of anxiety trying to prove ourselves for this paycheck before we're ready. And we will be more focused on trying to please different people in these higher positions rather than acquiring skills. But over time, this can kind of mess with your mind as well, because as you're chasing this paycheck, the money will always determine where you go and what you do. So again, instead of chasing this paycheck, chase the skills, chase the knowledge, chase learning when it comes to apprenticeships. So with strategy 2, this is expand your horizons. So he mentions how people are not going to help you in this world. It was kind of funny when he started out like that, but he said if you want to master a certain task, if you want to become the ideal apprenticeship, you got to want it for yourself. And so maybe you struggle against your limitations, like by just working harder and doing more, or reading books on a certain thing that you want to learn. And then mingling around the right people, you have to put yourself in these situations that are going to help you increase your skills and to help you become a master. Nobody else is just going to grab you by the collar and be like, come here, let me make you a master of this. You got to want it for yourself. Strategy 3 is revert to a feeling of inferiority. So he said this one is super key because in order to learn something new, you're going to have to be humble. And a lot of people, as they age, they struggle with this. He says this is really easy for kids to learn something from somebody, a new skill or whatever. But as we get older, we start to feel like we're too good for that. Or I don't want to listen to you because you're younger than me. Or, I've been doing something longer than you. You can't teach me. So he says we always need to be humble in order to open ourselves up to learning new skills. So strategy 4 is just trusting the process. And this one is pretty self-explanatory. Like whenever we're learning a new skill, we may hit a certain ceiling and then we become frustrated because it's really hard. And he says to try to think of a hard situation that you went through in the past and how you got through that, and just take it day by day, continuously practicing and working on these skills. And that's how you get past this hard point of frustration. Strategy 5 is moving towards the resistance and pain. We as humans, we hate this. We hate resistance. We hate pain. We shrink in front of it. And he says, this is how you get to that next level when learning new skills. Look at a skill you're trying to learn and do the hard things first. Go into those places or, practice the stuff that you hate practicing, the things that people don't want to do. Lean into that. And this is how you become a more well-rounded student, or a more like a well-rounded master, again, because you're doing things that you don't want to do. And so now you become better at those things. So you're great at the things that you love doing about this skill, and now you've mastered what you hate about the skill, and it just makes you better overall. Strategy 6 is apprenticeship yourself in failure. And so this one is kind of self-explanatory. So he says to lean into your failures. Like, don't hide away from them. Do more things at the skill. Take more shots. And if you miss, then we can work on our weaknesses. We see what we're failing at. We see what we're not good at. So then we can take those mistakes and be better next time. So again, do not shy away from turning in a project or doing something because you feel like you're not ready. Like, turn it in, see what the boss says. Oh, you missed this, or you could be better at this, and this. And so now you see these failures as lessons rather than just failures. Because again, every failure, I haven't mentioned this before, but every failure is just a lesson. There's no such thing as failure. So just keep putting shots up, keep practicing at your skill, keep, doing your projects or whatever you're doing, keep getting out there, keep failing, and then this is how you perfect it. And the last strategy is huge. It is advancing through trial and error. And so with this strategy, it's just expanding your skills, doing a lot of things, which I feel like a lot of young people today, they struggle at. You ask a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old, what do you want to do in your life? And they're just like, I don't know. I'm still living at home with my parents. I'm playing video games. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And so with this strategy, it is just do everything. And I have a few family members who are in this situation right now. They're not really doing anything with their lives. And it's like, do something. Go do something and figure out what you like, and you will acquire skills throughout that. Like, go outside, go join a construction company, go dig ditches, go lay brick. You know what? Oh, you know what? I actually don't like being outside in the cold. I want to do something else instead. But now you've acquired skills. You understand how to work with a team. You understand how to follow instructions. As you're doing more things, you will acquire more skills on your way to finding your life's task. Don't see this as wandering. See this as you are acquiring skills and expanding your knowledge. Again, like I just said, on just multiple skills. You're learning and going through life. And so now by the time you get to what you actually want to do in life, you've acquired so many skills at so many different things. It just makes you a more well-rounded person and easier to flourish at whatever your life's task is. So then he ends the chapter by saying, in this new age that we're living in right now, those who just follow a rigid, straight path will just be 40 plus years old in a dead-end career that they hate and they'll be bored with. And so he says that we should never stop acquiring skills, never stop learning, never stop adapting to the times, and never stop chasing our life's task. And that's pretty much it for this chapter. Go ahead and hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys on that next one. Peace.